Now let's talk about some of the emerging trends in the research. It's important to stay updated with the current research. Now let's go over some of the cannabis research over time. There was some ancient and traditional use. Cannabis has really been used for thousands of years in various cultures for medicinal, recreational, and religious purposes. Ancient texts from China and India and the Middle East mention the use of cannabis for a range of ailments. And then we move to the 19th century, and we see Western medicine starts really taking an interest in cannabis. Sir William Brooke O'Shaughnessy was an Irish physician, and he introduced cannabis to Western medicine after his work in India, where it was used for various medicinal purposes. Then we move to the early 20th century in the United States, and a lot of other countries implemented strict regulations on cannabis, which we saw in the United States in 1937 with the Marijuana Tax Act. And that effectively prohibited the sale and the use of cannabis in the United States. Then we moved to the mid-20th century with the discovery of THC in 1964 by Dr. Raphael McCollum and his colleagues in Israel, and that was this really significant milestone. And THC is the psychoactive compound in cannabis. And then we saw in 1970 the Controlled Substances Act in the United States, and that classified cannabis as a Schedule I drug, and that made it illegal for both recreational and medicinal use. And then in the late 20th century, research into the endocannabinoid system started in the 1980s, and that led to a really deeper understanding of how cannabinoids interact with the body. And the discovery of the endocannabinoid system by Alan Howlett and William Devane in 1988 really just paved the way for new research directions. And then in 1990s and 2000s, research on the potential therapeutic applications of cannabinoids really gained momentum. And in 1996, California became the first U.S. state to legalize medical marijuana. And then that led to this surge in medical cannabis research. And then we had the approval of Sativix, which was a cannabis-based prescription medicine, and that was approved in several countries, and that really just marked a turning point for cannabis as just this legitimate medical treatment. And then starting in the 2010s and beyond, the legalization of recreational cannabis in several of the United States and countries like Canada led to an increased interest in research. And it led to the research on the potential uses of the non-psychoactive cannabinoids like CBD, which is cannabidiol, that gained prominence there. And then ongoing clinical trials and studies have been exploring cannabis's effectiveness for various medical conditions like epilepsy, chronic pain, anxiety, and so on. So the current research and the future direction, the trend in cannabis research really just continues to evolve as more of our states and countries are legalizing cannabis. Emerging trends include genetic research to develop specific strains, exploration of minor cannabinoids, and advancements in cultivation and extraction techniques. The global research collaborations and increased funding are really contributing to this deeper understanding of cannabis and its potential benefits. The history of cannabis research really just reflects this complex interplay of cultural and legal and scientific factors. And as societal attitudes and legal frameworks continue to evolve, the trajectory of cannabis research is likely to expand and really just diversify. And that's going to open up a whole new world of possibilities for medical, industrial, and recreational applications. So the changing legal landscapes have had a significant impact on cannabis research in various ways. First, it increased funding. As more regions were decriminalizing or legalizing cannabis, funding for that research has increased. So the governments, private organizations, companies, they're all investing in cannabis studies. So legalization has allowed the researchers to access grants and funding for cannabis-related projects, leading to a broader and more robust body of research. And it's become easier to access cannabis for research. The changes in the laws have made it easier for the researchers to access that cannabis for their studies. And legalization allows the scientists to obtain cannabis from regulated sources, ensuring their quality and consistency. And also the researchers can access a wider variety of cannabis strains and products, and that's going to be crucial for understanding the plant's complexity. We also have ethical approval and research standards. With these legal frameworks in place, obtaining ethical approval for cannabis research has become more feasible. And the researchers still have to adhere to those strict guidelines and the standards, but the process becomes even more transparent and manageable with these approvals and standards. And we can also expand the research topics. Legalization really opened that door to this broader range of topics that we can research. Initially, we were focused on safety and risk, and the researchers can now explore the potential benefits of cannabis for various medical reasons and industrial applications. The studies on cannabis genetics and cultivation techniques and the endocannabinoid system have really expanded due to the changing legal landscapes. We've also had international collaboration. The countries with differing legal statuses on cannabis are now collaborating on research projects. And this global collaboration can really accelerate discoveries and help researchers share knowledge and the best practices. And then we've started to do clinical trials. Legalization has really facilitated the conducting of clinical trials on the efficacy of cannabis for specific medical conditions. And the researchers can now enroll patients in studies without fear of legal repercussions, and that allows for more comprehensive investigations. And then we do market and industry research, and the legalization really paved the way for the market and industry research on cannabis. And that's going to be important for understanding really just this economic and business and the regulatory aspects of the cannabis market. And public opinion and stigma has changed. As legalization became more widespread, the public opinion about cannabis has really shifted, and that reduces the stigma around its study. And this change in perception has really encouraged more students and researchers to enter the field, and that further drives innovation and inquiry. And there's been some challenges and regulatory hurdles. Legalization brought about a new set of regulatory challenges, like inconsistent legal frameworks between the states and the countries. And the researchers are still facing barriers related to the Schedule I status of the cannabis at the federal level in the United States, which really just limits the access to the federal funding, and it requires very strict oversight. But there's been some consumer product research done. The cannabis industry has really grown significantly in legal markets, and that leads to more research on consumer products like edibles and tinctures and topicals. And researchers can really access the safety and effectiveness of these products, which are in really high demand. So this changing legal landscape has really had a profound impact on cannabis research by increasing the funding. It broadens the scope of research, it eases the access to cannabis for study, and it really facilitates international collaboration. And while there's still regulatory challenges and hurdles, the trend is generally positive, and that leads to a better understanding of cannabis and its potential benefits and risks. Genetic research has really significantly advanced our understanding of cannabis in various ways. First, we've identified cannabinoids and terpene profiles. Genetic studies have really enabled us to identify and isolate specific cannabinoids and terpene profiles in cannabis strains. And researchers can now pinpoint which genes are responsible for producing compounds like THC and CBD, as well as the various terpenes, which are responsible for those unique aromas and flavors of the diverse strains. And then we've moved into strain development. Genetic research has really empowered breeders to create cannabis strains with tailored cannabinoid and terpene profiles to meet specific medicinal, recreational, and industrial needs. So by understanding the genetics behind strain characteristics, breeders can really just develop plants with desired attributes like CBD content, like higher CBD content, lower THC levels, or particular terpene combinations. And then we got the phylogenetic genetic studies. Um, these genetic analysis have allowed us for the development of the phylogenetic trees that help classify and understand the relationships between the different cannabis strains. And researchers can now trace the origins and the evolution of cannabis varieties and identify some common genetic ancestors. And now we have even more consistency in cultivation. The genetic research has really contributed to greater consistency in cannabis cultivation by really helping the growers select and clone the plants with the desired traits. And this leads to more predictable and reproducible outcomes in terms of cannabinoid and terpene content, also in their yield and their growth characteristics. And we've also started to identify pathways for biosynthesis. Really just understanding the genetics of cannabinoid and terpene biosynthesis has just opened the pathway to enhance and optimize production. And this knowledge, it's just really valuable for both the pharmaceutical industry, which seeks to synthesize cannabinoids, and also for the cannabis industry because they're aiming to improve the yield and the quality. And then we've developed some pest and disease resistance. That genetic research really identifies the genes that are associated with the pest and the disease resistance in those cannabis plants. And that information really just allows for the development of more resilient plant varieties. And it just reduces the need for pesticides and increases the sustainability of the plant. And then, of course, regulatory compliance. The genetic research can provide tools for regulatory agencies to kind of verify the authenticity of the strains and ensure compliance with the legal standards. And this just helps to prevent fraud and ensures that consumers receive what they expect in terms of cannabinoid and terpene profiles. And then, of course, conservation and preservation. The genetic research really just guides the efforts here to conserve and preserve genetic diversity in cannabis and protects rare or endangered strains. And this is particularly important for the preservation of unique genetic characteristics. And then we have pharmacological studies. The genetic studies enable a deeper understanding of the pharmacological effects of the specific cannabis compounds and how they're interacting with the endocannabinoid system. And that knowledge is really crucial for the medical cannabis research and the development of targeted treatments. But overall, genetic research has really revolutionized our understanding of cannabis and enables the development of customized strains, improved cultivation practices, and just contributed to the medical and industrial and recreational aspects of the cannabis industry. And this research continues to drive innovation and advancement in the field. Cannabinoids and terpenes are really just two classes of chemical compounds that are found in cannabis and other plants. And they really just play a significant role in the aroma and the flavor and the effects of the cannabis, as well as its potential therapeutic applications. So we're going to go over some of the significance of these. So let's start with the cannabinoids. Obviously, they have the psychoactive and medicinal effects. The cannabinoids are the primary compounds responsible for the psychoactive and medicinal effects of cannabis. And the most well-known cannabinoid is the delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the THC. And that's what's responsible for that high feeling that's associated with cannabis use. And then we have the cannabidiol, which is the CBD, and that's another major cannabinoid within the non-psychoactive properties and the various potential therapeutic benefits of the plant. And of course, we have the therapeutic potential. Cannabinoids, particularly CBD, have shown promise in the treatment of a lot of different medical conditions, including epilepsy and chronic pain, anxiety, and so many more. And the research is ongoing here, and new therapeutic applications are continuing to emerge in the field. And then we have the entourage effect. This interaction between the different cannabinoids in a cannabis strain can result in what we call the entourage effect, where the combined effects are greater than the sum of their individual effects. So the synergy might enhance therapeutic benefits. And we have receptor interaction. So the cannabinoids are interacting with our endocannabinoid system in the human body, and that's going to play a crucial role in regulating some physiological processes like pain and mood and appetite and immune functioning. And these varied effects, the different cannabinoids have distinct effects. So for example, THC is really known for its euphoria and its relaxation, while CBD is really just associated with anti-anxiety and anti-inflammatory properties. Now moving into the terpenes, like I said, it's all about aroma and flavor here. These terpenes are aromatic compounds that contribute to the smell and the taste of cannabis and a lot of other plants for that matter. And they just really create the diverse range of scents that are found in the different cannabis strains. And again, we have this entourage effect. The terpenes work in conjunction with the cannabinoids to create the entourage effect. And they modify and enhance the effects of cannabinoids, and it makes the strain uplifting or sedative or otherwise distinct in its impact. And then we have the therapeutic properties for terpenes. They have therapeutic potential. Some terpenes like myrcene, myrcene, in case you're wondering, it's associated with sedative effects. And then others like limonene, limonene, are linked to mood elevation and stress relief. Certain terpenes have demonstrated anti-inflammatory and analgesic or pain-relieving properties, and that makes them valuable in holistic and alternative medicine. And then terpenes help to differentiate different cannabis strains, and they can be used to identify and distinguish between the strains with similar cannabinoid profiles. And then terpenes contribute to the cultural and the culinary significance of cannabis, and they really play a role in the diverse and often complex flavors that are associated with the various strains. So overall, cannabinoids and terpenes are really both significant because they determine the physiological and the psychoactive effects of the cannabis. It influences its aroma and its flavor, and it has a lot of different therapeutic potential. And their combined presence in the different cannabinoid strains or the cannabis strains really just gives each strain its unique characteristics, and it makes it possible to tailor cannabis consumption to specific preferences or medicinal needs. So understanding the interplay between the compounds is really going to be crucial for optimizing the use of cannabis for various purposes. New discoveries and potential applications of cannabinoids and terpenes are continuously emerging as research into cannabis and its compounds is expanding. And some of the recent findings and emerging applications are going to include the cannabinoids themselves. We have CBG, which the recent research has really highlighted CBG's potential as an anti-inflammatory and its neuroprotective compound. And it may even have applications in treating conditions like Crohn's disease and neurodegenerative disorders. And then we have THCV, and this is being studied for its potential to suppress appetite and aid in weight loss, and it makes it a really great target for anti-obesity medications. And then we have CBN. Actually, CBN was the first cannabinoid to really be isolated, and we thought that it was what gave us that psychoactive effect, but then later we isolated THC. But the CBN is considered a degradation product of THC. So this means if the marijuana has been sitting out for a long time, it's starting to degrade, you're going to find more CBN on products that are sitting on the shelf because they've been sitting there a while. So it's a degradative product of the THC, and it may have sedative properties and potential applications for sleep aid products. And then we have cannabis-based pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceutical companies, they're developing these cannabis-based medications like Epidiolex, which is CBD for epilepsy. And we also have Sativex, which is a THC CBD combination for multiple sclerosis. We also have personalized medicine, cannabinoid profiling, and that's based on the individual's genetics and symptoms. And this is an emerging field. It's a strategy for personalized medicine. And so tailoring the cannabinoid ratios to specific patients' needs is really a growing trend. And then moving on to the terpenes, we have the terpene-enriched products. The terpene profiles are being used to create products with targeted effects. So, for example, high myrcene strains are used in products that are designed for relaxation, while the strains rich in limonene may be used for mood enhancement. And then we have aromatherapy and wellness products. Terpenes are increasingly being used in aromatherapy and wellness products, where we believe they're going to have a positive impact on the mood and the emotional well-being of the person using it. And then terpenes also help to differentiate the strains and the products by aroma and flavor. And as the cannabis market is growing, the use of terpenes for branding and product variation has really expanded. And some of these terpenes are being explored for their potential use in biofuels and as industrial solvents, which can really reduce environmental impact. And then the breeders are focusing on enhancing the specific terpene profiles to create strains with unique characteristics and different flavor profiles and different effects. And the researchers are just continuing to investigate the entourage effect and how the terpenes interact with the different cannabinoids to create enhanced effects in the various medical and recreational applications. So it's going to be important to note that while these discoveries and potential applications are promising, further research is really going to be needed to really fully understand the mechanisms, the efficacy, and the safety of the cannabinoids and the terpenes. And as legalization and acceptance of cannabis research expand, we can, expect to see even more developments and applications in the future. Research into medical cannabis applications has really just been ongoing and producing a growing body of evidence to really support its use for various medical conditions. And so obviously new research and new findings are going to be coming out, but some of the latest research and findings and the applications of medical cannabis to date are first and foremost chronic pain management. A lot of different studies have indicated that medical cannabis can effectively manage chronic pain, particularly the neuropathic and cancer-related pains. Medical cannabis may reduce the need for opioid medications and potentially mitigate the opioid epidemic. And then we created Epidiolex, which is a pharmaceutical-grade CBD product that had received FDA approval for the treatment of certain rare forms of childhood epilepsy, such as Dravet syndrome and Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. So CBD in general has really just shown some promise in reducing the frequency and the severity of seizures in epilepsy patients. And then it's been used to treat multiple sclerosis. Medical cannabis has been explored as a potential treatment for symptoms of MS, including spasticity and pain. And some of the studies suggest that cannabis may improve muscle spasticity and the quality of life in MS patients. And then medical cannabis is also used to alleviate chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. And there's some ongoing research into the potential of cannabinoids to inhibit the growth of cancer cells. And also CBD has been studied for its anxiolytic properties or anti-anxiety properties and the potential use in treating anxiety disorders and post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. And there's some research that has shown that cannabis may help reduce the symptoms of IBD or irritable bowel disease like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, because of its anti-inflammatory properties. And then cannabis compounds, including THC and CBD, have really been investigated for their potential neuroprotective and anti-inflammatory effects in Alzheimer's patients. And then we all know it's used to treat glaucoma. And while the research is ongoing, the medical cannabis has been studied for its potential to reduce intraocular pressure, which is a risk factor for glaucoma. And some studies have explored the use of medical cannabis for conditions like autism spectrum disorder and schizophrenia, and they've had mixed results there. And medical cannabis is also being used to manage pain in patients with chronic and terminal illnesses like HIV, AIDS, and cancer. And CBD has really been studied for its potential to reduce withdrawal symptoms and cravings in people with substance use disorders. And some of the research suggests that cannabis may be effective in reducing the frequency and the severity of migraines and also of headaches. So it's going to be important for me to emphasize here that the medical use of cannabis should always be under the guidance of a healthcare professional, as the appropriateness of treatment varies from person to person. And furthermore, the research in the field of medical cannabis continues to evolve, and new findings and applications are likely to emerge in the coming years. So, looking at the research on the effects of cannabis on mental health, this too has been ongoing and evolving. While some of the studies have suggested potential therapeutic uses for certain mental health conditions, there's also concerns about the adverse effects of cannabis, especially when it's used inappropriately or excessively. And like I said before, new research is going to emerge, and so what we're going to cover here is just some of the trends up to date. So let's look at the positive effects. Anxiety and stress relief. Some individuals reported using cannabis to alleviate symptoms of anxiety and stress. CBD in particular was suggested as a potential anxiolytic. And one of the research studies showed that one group used 7.5 milligrams of THC and another group used 12.5 milligrams of THC. And the group that actually used the 7.5 milligrams was able to come off of or reduce their anxiety medication, whereas the group that had 12.5 milligrams, the study showed that they actually increased their anxiety. And then in the treatment of PTSD, the preliminary studies indicated that cannabis, especially with high CBD content, might be helpful for managing the symptoms of PTSD, but more research is needed in this area. And then medical cannabis has been prescribed for pain management in various conditions, and it's reported to have a positive impact on mood in some cases. But when we look at the negative effects and concerns, we see psychosis and schizophrenia. There are growing concerns about the link between cannabis use, especially high THC strains, and the increased risk of psychosis and schizophrenia, particularly in people with a predisposition to these conditions. And some studies have shown that if a mother uses cannabis in any amount while she's pregnant, the baby has a higher risk of developing schizophrenia later in life. And then other studies have shown that, in particular, male adolescents in between the ages of 14 to 24, I believe, were more at risk of developing schizophrenia or unmasking it earlier on in life if they were using high THC at abusive levels. So that's something to kind of look out for with your clients or, people that you may know. Research also highlighted the potential for cannabis dependence and addiction, particularly with frequent heavy use. And a lot of people are under the impression that they cannot be addicted to cannabis, and that's just not the case. And they liken withdrawal to opioid withdrawal, and they don't seem to compare it to nicotine withdrawal for some reason. And so that's something else that we can point out to others is that the withdrawal is a sign of addiction. And so if you are experiencing symptoms of withdrawal from the marijuana or the cannabis, then you likely were physically addicted to the substance or tissue dependent, so to speak. So that's going to be insomnia, irritable mood, inability to eat, things like that. Those are going to be withdrawal symptoms. And then, of course, it impairs our cognitive functioning. Cannabis really is, especially when it's used in adolescence, was associated with impaired cognitive functioning and a potential impact on educational and occupational outcomes. And then the relationship between cannabis use and depression is really just complex, with some of the studies suggested a potential link and others found no association. And for some people, cannabis use, particularly high THC strains, were associated with increased anxiety and increase in panic attacks. And we know cannabis could interact with medications that are used to treat mental health conditions, and that could potentially affect their efficacy and their safety. And the research also indicates that adolescent cannabis use might be linked to an increased risk of later mental health issues. And the effects of cannabis on mental health were really influenced by factors like dosage, frequency of use, THC and CBD content, and individual differences. So now we look towards the areas that emerging research is happening. So CBD, a non-psychoactive cannabinoid, is being studied for its potential to manage anxiety disorders and social anxiety. And research is also ongoing to better understand how cannabis affects individuals with bipolar disorder. And some studies explored the use of cannabis as an alternative to opioids for pain management. Then other research focused on how cannabis might impact cognitive functioning in older adults and its potential therapeutic role in age-related cognitive decline. So it's really just essential to remember that the effects of cannabis on mental health can vary greatly from person to person, and individual factors, including genetics and prior mental health history, are really going to play a significant role. And the regulatory and the legal status of cannabis can vary widely between regions, influencing the access and the patterns of use. And therefore, consulting with a healthcare professional and staying updated on the latest research and local regulations is crucial when considering cannabis use for mental health purposes. Research on the gut microbiome and cannabis is an emerging and really intriguing area of study. The gut microbiome, which consists of trillions of microorganisms living in the gastrointestinal tract, is going to play a crucial role in various aspects of human health, including digestion, immune function, and even our mental health. And researchers are investigating the crosstalk between the endocannabinoid system and the gut microbiome. And the endocannabinoid system, which interacts with cannabinoids in cannabis, is believed to play a role in regulating gut health. And the studies have suggested that gut microbiome influences endocannabinoid tone, which could have implications for various physiological functions. Also, early research has shown that the use of cannabinoids, particularly THC, can alter the composition of our gut microbiota. And changes in the gut microbiota due to cannabis can really impact the metabolic processes and overall health, including potential interactions with the endocannabinoid system. And cannabis, particularly CBD, has shown potential for managing gastrointestinal conditions like irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease. And researchers are investigating whether these therapeutic effects are mediated in part by the gut microbiota. Also, emerging research suggests that the gut microbiome plays a significant role in modulating the immune response and inflammation. Cannabis compounds in particular CBD, might interact with the gut microbiota to influence immune functioning. And the scientists are also exploring the possibility of the entourage effect involving the gut microbiome. And just as cannabinoids and cannabis may have that synergistic effect, there could be interactions between cannabis and the gut microbiota that enhance therapeutic outcomes. And some of the preliminary findings suggest that gut microbiota composition may influence the metabolism of cannabinoids, potentially affecting the duration and the intensity of the cannabis effects. And as the research continues, there may be some opportunities to harness the gut microbiome and its influence for personalized medicine with specific cannabis treatments targeted to an individual's microbiota composition. So it's going to be important to note here that while the research in this area is promising, it's still relatively new and evolving. But researchers are working to uncover the mechanisms and specific interactions between cannabis and the gut microbiome, as well as the potential therapeutic applications. And as more studies are conducted and the field progresses, a deeper understanding of the complex relationship between cannabis and the gut microbiota and human health is expected to emerge. And the potential connections between health and wellness, the gut microbiome and cannabis are an emerging area of research with several intriguing applications. The gut microbiome plays a significant role in regulating the inflammation in the body. Dysbiosis and imbalance in the gut bacteria is associated with chronic inflammation, which is linked to numerous health conditions. And some cannabinoids in cannabis, like CBD, have that anti-inflammatory property. So the research is suggesting that these compounds may interact with that gut microbiome to modulate inflammation and promote overall wellness. And the emerging evidence indicates that the gut-brain axis, which connects the gut microbiome with the central nervous system, is going to play a role in mood regulation and mental health. And if you haven't already noticed, some people get hangry. They get angry when they're hungry because of that connection there. And cannabis compounds, including CBD, are being studied for their potential to influence the gut-brain axis, potentially leading to benefits for conditions like anxiety and depression. And the gut microbiome can affect the metabolic processes, including those related to weight management and energy balance. And cannabis, specifically THC, is known to stimulate appetite. That's why people get the munchies. So understanding how the gut microbiota may be involved in this process could have implications for managing conditions related to obesity and metabolic health. So a balanced gut microbiome is essential for a well-functioning immune system. And dysregulation of the gut microbiota can lead to immune system imbalances. Food is medicine. Cannabis, particularly compounds like CBD, are being investigated for their immunodilatory properties, which could contribute to overall immune system health. And a lot of gastrointestinal conditions like irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease are associated with the gut microbiota imbalances. And CBD has really shown promise in managing those conditions by influencing the gut microbiome. And as our understanding of the interplay between cannabis and the gut microbiome and individual health factors grows, personalized treatments based on the individual's unique microbiota profile may become possible. And so the researchers are exploring the potential for the microbiome-based therapies that use cannabis compounds to target specific conditions like gut-related disorders and mental health issues. So it's important to know that while the connections between the gut microbiome and cannabis are promising, again, this research is still evolving. The gut microbiome is highly individualized, and the interactions between the specific strains of gut bacteria and cannabis compounds really vary from person to person. And as this research is continuing, we're going to get a more comprehensive understanding of the connections and their practical applications for our health and and our wellness. And we hope that that's going to develop soon. So the research related to industrial hemp has really just been focused on various aspects, including its agricultural, its economic, its environmental significance. So some of the trends and the topics that are prominent in the research today are that research has been ongoing to optimize hemp cultivation techniques, including crop rotation, soil health, pest management, things like that. So the researchers are developing region-specific hemp varieties to suit the diverse environmental conditions there. And some of the studies are aimed to maximize the content of specific cannabinoids like CBD and different terpenes in hemp strains for medicinal and therapeutic purposes. And some of the research explored the impact of various growing conditions on cannabinoid and terpene profiles. Hemp fibers are being explored for a wide range of industrial applications like textiles, building materials, bioplastics. Some people are using hemp products as insulation in their houses, which is interesting. And some of the researchers are investigating more sustainable alternatives to traditional materials by using these hemp fibers. Research focused on the sustainability of hemp cultivation, which often requires fewer pesticides and herbicides and water compared to the other crops. Hemp's potential to sequester carbon in the soil and mitigate climate change is still being studied. And the advances in hemp genetics are leading to the development of high-yield, disease-resistant, and cannabinoid-rich hemp varieties. So breeding projects aim to tailor hemp strains for specific end uses include grain, fiber, and also CBD production. Also, researchers are examining the regulatory and policy frameworks surrounding hemp cultivation and its production and distribution. And these studies are assessing the economic impact of hemp legalization and the potential benefits for local economies. Some of the research is evaluating the economic viability of hemp as a cash crop, and they're considering factors such as market demand, pricing, profitability, things like that. And the development of secondary hemp products like food and cosmetics is also being explored for economic growth. And some of these studies are investigating hemp's abilities to remediate contaminated soils by extracting heavy metals and pollutants. And this makes it a candidate for phytoremediation projects. International research efforts are aimed to establish best practices for hemp cultivation and processing, and also to promote global trade and standards. Some of the research explored the use of hemp seeds and oils and proteins in various foods and also in beverage products, including protein bars and dairy alternatives and also functional foods. And some of the research is exploring sustainable farming practices like organic and regenerative agriculture for hemp cultivation, focusing on the soil health and the ecosystem conservation. So as the hemp industry continues to evolve rapidly and new research findings may have emerged in areas such as genetic or agricultural practices, and also in the development of innovative hemp-based products, we need to stay updated with the latest research and regulations if you're interested in the industrial hemp sector, as these new developments are likely to kind of shape this industry's future. Cannabis research is increasingly addressing the needs of aging populations as the potential benefits of cannabis and cannabinoids are becoming more widely recognized. Chronic pain is a common issue in these aging populations, and so the research is investigating the use of cannabinoids like CBD for pain management in conditions like arthritis and neuropathy and musculoskeletal pain. And these studies are aiming to determine the effectiveness and the safety of various cannabis-based pain management options, including topical creams and oral formulations. And the research on cannabinoids like CBD and THC are focused on their potential neuroprotective effects. And this is going to have implications for conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, which are prevalent in older adults. And the studies are exploring the potential to slow down the progression of these diseases and improve cognitive functioning. Mental health issues like anxiety and depression are common in aging populations, and so the research is investigating the use of CBD for the anxiolytic and the antidepressant properties. And studies are exploring the effects of CBD on mood and emotional well-being in older adults. Sleep problems are prevalent in aging populations, so cannabis research is examining the use of specific strains and cannabinoid ratios to improve sleep quality and address conditions like insomnia. Emerging studies aim to determine optimal dosages and administration methods. Also, cannabis is increasingly being used in palliative care to manage the symptoms associated with the end-of-life care like pain and nausea and loss of appetite. So the research is focusing on optimizing cannabis-based treatments to improve the quality of life for those in hospice and palliative care settings. Some aging populations are susceptible to conditions like osteoporosis, and some of the studies are exploring the potential of cannabinoids in promoting bone health and fracture healing. Research on cannabis is aimed at understanding its effects on cognitive functioning, both positive and negative, and this is particularly important for older adults who may be concerned about memory and cognitive decline. Older adults often take multiple medications, which lead to adverse drug interactions. So some of the research is looking at how cannabis can reduce the need for certain medications, which leads to safer and more streamlined treatment regimens. And efforts are underway to educate healthcare providers and older adults about the potential benefits and of the risks of cannabis. And some of the research is focused on the development of best practices for cannabis use in older populations, including dosing, administration methods, and monitoring, things like that. And these cannabis companies are developing products and delivery methods that are tailored to the needs and the preferences of older adults, like low-dose options, easy-to-use formulations, and also products that are targeting age-related issues. And as the population continues to age, cannabis research is likely going to continue to expand to address the unique health and wellness needs of the older adults. And it's essential that older individuals considering cannabis as a potential treatment consult with their healthcare professional to ensure that it aligns with their individual health condition and their medications. Moving on to environmental and sustainability research. Sustainable cannabis cultivation practices have really gained considerable attention in recent years as the legal cannabis industry is expanding. So researchers and cultivators are exploring various strategies and technologies to reduce the environmental impact of cannabis production. Research is focusing on organic cultivation practices, including the use of compost, cover crops, natural pest control methods, and these practices enhance soil health and promote sustainable chemical-free cultivation. And cannabis cultivation can really be energy intensive, and the latest research examines some more energy efficient technologies like LED lighting, HVAC systems, and automated climate control to reduce electricity consumption and really minimize the carbon footprint there. These sustainable cultivation practices include water recycling, rainwater harvesting, and also the use of efficient irrigation systems to reduce water consumption and prevent runoff. And researchers are studying the use of biodegradable and recyclable materials for cannabis packaging, which is going to reduce the waste and the environmental impact. Some of the cultivation practices incorporate carbon sequestration methods by planting trees or incorporating regenerative agricultural techniques, which offset the greenhouse gas emissions. Advancements in technologies, including drones and sensors, are used to monitor plant health and optimize resource use, and that's just really reducing the waste and increasing the crop yield. And the cannabis industry is also exploring environmentally friendly extraction methods like supercritical CO2 extraction, which reduces the use of harmful solvents, and it also minimizes waste. The research is also examining the environmental impact of indoor versus outdoor cultivation. Growing cannabis outdoors can significantly reduce energy and water consumption. Sustainable pest management practices are researched to minimize the use of pesticides and herbicides, employing natural predators and alternative pest control techniques. And hemp cultivation, which really does have a wide range of applications like textiles, bioplastics, construction materials, that's being studied for sustainability potential. And also researchers are investigating the use of alternative growing mediums, such as coconut coir or peat alternatives, which reduce the environmental impact of traditional soil or peat-based mediums. And then sustainable cannabis cultivation practices are going to emphasize recycling and responsible waste disposal. The research is focused on reducing the environmental footprint of the cannabis waste. And some of the cultivation practices are going to incorporate biodiversity by creating greenhouses and outdoor environments that support diverse plant and animal life, which promotes ecosystem health. And the development of sustainable certification programs and standards for cannabis cultivation practices is an area of growing interest in the industry. And some of the studies are exploring the use of alternative energy sources like solar and wind power to reduce the carbon footprint of indoor cannabis cultivation. So sustainable cannabis cultivation practices are crucial not only for minimizing environmental impact, but also for meeting regulatory requirements in many regions. As research and innovation in this field continues to grow, this industry is likely to adopt more eco-friendly and responsible methods of production. So, as I've been saying, the environmental impact of the cannabis industry is a really complex and multifaceted issue that can vary significantly depending on several factors, including the scale of production, the cultivation methods, and the regional regulations. So, indoor cannabis cultivation, this is really common in regions with strict regulations. It's known for its high energy consumption. Grow lights, HVAC systems, and dehumidifiers can contribute to significant electricity use and carbon emissions. And water usage is high. Cannabis plants require water, and the industry can really place a strain on local water resources, especially in areas where water scarcity is a concern. Some unsustainable cultivation practices may involve excessive water use or water wastage. And then, like I've been saying, the use of pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers in conventional cannabis cultivation can lead to soil and water contamination, harming the ecosystem and the local wildlife. Also, cannabis production generates waste, including plant material, packaging, other byproducts. So the improper disposal of this waste can have environmental consequences. Illicit cannabis cultivation, often on public lands, can lead to habitat disruption, soil erosion, and damage to the local ecosystems. And the use of water diversion techniques in illegal cultivation can also harm aquatic ecosystems. And then we have the cannabis supply chain, including the transportation and packaging, can contribute to carbon emissions. And additionally, the energy-intensive nature of the indoor cultivation can leave a significant carbon footprint. And in regions where cannabis cultivation is illegal, such as some parts of the Amazon rainforest, illicit growers have been responsible for deforestation and habitat destruction. And the conversion of agricultural or natural land for cannabis cultivation can displace the natural flora and fauna, impacting the local biodiversity. So compliance with strict cannabis regulations like security requirements, waste management, environmental controls, that can drive up production costs and potentially lead to overuse of resources. And the transportation of cannabis products from cultivation sites to dispensaries and also to consumers can contribute to emissions, particularly if long distances are involved. So There have been some efforts to mitigate these sustainable cultivation practices, adopting sustainable and organic cultivation methods like energy efficient technology and responsible water management, cultivating hemp for industrial applications. It's more environmentally friendly. Um, Regulatory compliance, requiring businesses to implement environmentally responsible practices, responsible waste disposal, recycling, and compost programs to get rid of those waste issues. And then, of course, education and awareness to educate consumers and businesses about the environmental impact of cannabis are increasing. And this can really help to promote more sustainable choices and practices. So just note that the environmental impact of the cannabis industry is not uniform across all regions and businesses, and sustainable practices and responsible cultivation can really help to minimize those negative effects, but effective regulation and consumer awareness are also critical in addressing these issues. And while THC and CBD are the most well-known cannabinoids found in the cannabis plant, there are some lesser known cannabinoids, and each has its own unique potential effects and applications. So I've listed some of those here. Like I've gone over before, CBG is referred to the mother cannabinoid because it is a precursor to THC and CBD and the other cannabinoids. And it does have that potential anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and neuroprotective property. And research suggests that CBG may be effective in treating conditions like glaucoma, inflammatory bowel disease, neurodegenerative diseases. And then THC has different effects, but could suppress the appetite. And it could be used potentially as an anticonvulsant in people with epilepsy. CBC, non-psychoactive, anti-inflammatory, analgesic properties, and it does contribute to the entourage effect when it's combined with the other cannabinoids. And it can have some antidepressant, anti-anxiety effects, so it makes this a potential candidate for mood-related disorders. CBN, like I said before, that's the degradative product of cannabis, mildly psychoactive, considered a sedative, and it can have analgesic and anti-inflammatory effects, so it makes it a good candidate for pain management. CBT is another minor cannabinoid with limited research. Its potential effects are really not well understood, but we still are investigating it for therapeutic properties. Delta 8 THC is a variant of THC. It has a milder psychoactive effect compared to Delta 9 THC, and it's gaining attention for its potential for relaxation and mood elevation, and it's often used for its potential anti-nausea and anti-anxiety effects. And then Delta 10 THC is another THC variant with psychoactive properties. Although less potent than the Delta 9, its effects and potential applications are not well established yet. And then we have THCP and CBDP. That's kind of hard to say. So these are recently discovered, and very little is known about their potential effects, and they're being researched to understand their properties and potential applications. And then we have the other minor cannabinoids. The cannabis plant does contain numerous other minor cannabinoids. There's over 120 of them, and each have unique properties. Some of these include CBL, CBT, and others. So research on these cannabinoids is going to be ongoing to explore their effects and their potential benefits. So just note here that the research on these lesser known cannabinoids is still in its early stages. More is definitely going to be needed to fully understand their effects and their therapeutic potential, and the interaction between these minor cannabinoids as well as their interaction with the more well-known cannabinoids can result in a complex entourage effect, potentially enhancing the therapeutic benefits of the whole plant. Technology is really revolutionizing cannabis research in a lot of ways, and this is enabling scientists and researchers to explore the plant's potential more comprehensively and efficiently. So advanced cultivation technology, including automated climate control systems, environmental sensors, precision agricultural tools, are going to allow researchers to optimize growing conditions and maximize their crop yields. LED lighting, efficient HVAC systems, these are going to enable indoor cultivation with reduced energy consumption. High performance analytical instruments like gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry, LCMS, and GCMS. These are both used to identify and quantify cannabinoids, terpenes, and other compounds in cannabis plants. And this technology enables researchers to study the chemical composition of different cannabis strains and products. Then we have genomic sequencing technology that allows for the identification of specific genes and genetic markers in cannabis plants. And this information can be used to breed plants with desired traits like high cannabinoid content or disease resistance. And we have bioinformatic tools and software that enables researchers to analyze large databases related to cannabis genetics and gene expression and chemical profiles. And this technology helps researchers gain insight into the relationships between genes and the production of cannabinoids and terpenes. And then we have mass spectrometry and nuclear magnetic resonance, or NMR. That's used to study the phytochemistry of cannabis, and that allows researchers to identify and also quantify the various compounds. And this technology is essential for understanding the chemical makeup of the different cannabis strains and products. We also have advanced extraction techniques like the supercritical CO2 extraction, and that's used to isolate cannabinoids and terpenes from the plant material. And researchers can create precise formulations for cannabis-based products, including pharmaceuticals and edibles and topicals from these. And technology is employed in cannabis testing labs also, so they can ensure product safety and quality. And techniques like high-performance liquid chromatography, or HPLC, and polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, they're going to help detect contaminants and verify label claims. We have blockchain technology. This is utilized to create transparent supply chains for cannabis products, and it helps in verifying the authenticity and the safety of the products. Track and trace systems. These are going to provide real-time information about the product's journey from cultivation to distribution. We also have technological advancements that have led to the development of advanced cannabis consumption devices like vaporizers and precision dosing systems that provide controlled and consistent experiences. Data analytics and machine learning tools are used to analyze the massive amount of data that's generated by cannabis research. And these technologies just help researchers identify patterns and predict outcomes and make data-driven decisions. And the technology, including mobile apps and online platforms, provides consumers and patients with information about cannabis strains, dosages, potential effects, and so on. And this is going to empower the user to make informed decisions about their cannabis use. Also, researchers use virtual reality and simulation technology to model the effects of cannabis compounds on the brain and the body. And that's going to aid in understanding their potential therapeutic and psychoactive effects. So these technological advances are accelerating the pace of cannabis research. It's leading to a deeper understanding of the plant's properties and the potential applications. And as this industry is growing and becoming more regulated, technology is going to continue to play a pivotal role in advancing cannabis research and also product development. And artificial intelligence is also revolutionizing cannabis research by enhancing data analysis, accelerating the discoveries, and also optimizing various aspects of the cannabis industry. We have AI-powered algorithms that are used to analyze these large data sets related to cannabis genetics and chemical composition and clinical outcomes. And AI can identify patterns and relationship within the data that may not be apparent through traditional analysis. And that's going to provide some really valuable insights for researchers. Also, AI models can predict the phenotype or the observable traits of the cannabis plants based on genetic data, and this is really valuable for breeding programs and strain development. Also, AI can help identify strains with specific characteristics, like high cannabinoid content or unique terpene profiles. And also, AI can assist in identifying genetic markers that are associated with the desired traits in the plant, like disease resistance, high yield, specific cannabinoid production. And this information is really crucial for breeding programs that are aimed at producing different varieties with specific attributes. AI algorithms can also analyze chemical data to accurately profile the cannabinoids and the terpenes in cannabis strains and products. And this technology helps in creating consistent and standardized products and improving quality control. AI is also used to optimize the formulation of the cannabis-based products, ensuring precise and consistent dosages for, especially for medical and recreational use. And it can also help us in developing novel drug delivery methods. It also helps with crop management to provide real-time monitoring of the environmental conditions and the plant health in the cultivation facilities. And it can also optimize factors like lighting, temperature, humidity, nutrient delivery to maximize the yields while reducing resource consumption. Also, AI image recognition and machine learning are employed for early detection of pests and diseases in cannabis plants, and this can help reduce the use of pesticides and improve the crop yield. They can also enhance the track and trace systems and provide real-time visibility into the supply chain. And of course, that helps to verify authenticity and the quality of the product. And then also blockchain technology combined with AI ensures transparency and security in the cannabis supply chain. AI is also used to analyze customer data, including preferences, purchasing behavior, product reviews, and that really provides insight for product development and marketing strategies. Also, these models can predict potential drug interactions between cannabis products and pharmaceutical medications, so that's only going to enhance patient safety and healthcare recommendations. Also, these AI systems can assist in ensuring regulatory compliance by tracking and reporting on adherence to the laws and the regulations concerning cannabis. And lastly, AI-driven platforms and applications can provide personalized cannabis recommendations for medical users based on their specific health conditions and treatment goals. So AI's ability to process and analyze these vast data sets, make predictions, and adapt to new information is accelerating the understanding of cannabis and its potential applications. And it's likely to continue playing a pivotal role in enhancing and advancing the cannabis research and the cannabis industry as a whole. And the cannabis industry has been seeing a significant advancement in lab equipment and technology to support research. Also in quality control and safety. And these advancements have improved the accuracy and the efficiency and the precision of cannabis testing and analysis. We have HPLC, which is the high performance liquid chromatography, and this has been refined to provide accurate and rapid quantification of cannabinoids and other compounds in the cannabis samples. And this is essential for product quality control and formulation. We have GCMS, which is used for precise analysis of volatile compounds like terpenes in cannabis. So the advanced GCMS systems offer greater sensitivity and reliability. And we have LCMS. These are becoming more accessible and affordable, enabling detailed analysis of cannabinoids and other compounds. And this technology is valuable for researching the chemical composition of cannabis. We also have nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. Say that 10 times fast. NMR, this technology provides detailed structural information about molecules, and it's also used in the analysis of cannabinoids, terpenes, and other compounds in cannabis. We have UHPLC. These systems offer higher efficiency and shorter analysis times compared to the traditional HPLC, which is beneficial for lab processing of a high volume of cannabis samples. We have PCR tests. This real-time PCR technology is used to identify and quantify specific DNA sequences, making it useful for genetic analysis of the cannabis strains and also identifying genetic markers for those desired traits. We have advanced microbial testing systems, which quickly and accurately detect harmful pathogens like mold and bacteria and fungi in the cannabis samples. We have spectrophotometers. These are used to measure the absorbance and transmission of light through the cannabis samples, and that helps to determine cannabinoid concentrations and also ensure the product consistency. We have automated sample preparation equipment, which streamlines the process of extracting and preparing samples for analysis, and that reduces the potential for human error. We have integrated cannabis testing platforms and software solutions that are available to manage sample tracking and testing and reporting, and that's going to help the lab operate more efficiently. And we have safety testing equipment. That's the gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and the LC-MS systems for the detection of residual solvents, heavy metals, pesticides, mycotoxins in the cannabis products. Terpene profilers. This specialized equipment is designed for the analysis of terpenes in cannabis, and it provides a more comprehensive understanding of strain profiles and the potential therapeutic effects. We have cannabis extraction equipment. The innovations here in extraction technology have really improved the efficiency and the safety of the extraction process, which allows for the production of high quality extracts and concentrates. We have advanced microscopy systems, which provide detailed analysis of the trichomes, the plant structures, and pests, and that aids in quality control and strain characterization. And these advancements in lab equipment are contributing to the standardization and the quality control of cannabis products. It's ensuring the consumer safety and promoting reliable and consistent cannabis experiences. And they also support research efforts to better understand the plant's chemistry and its various applications. And cannabis research is just this rapidly evolving field. Several countries are leading global efforts in this research and innovation. Canada has been at the forefront of cannabis research and innovation, and it's driven by its progressive cannabis policies and federally legalized medical and recreational cannabis. The country's home to numerous research institutions and universities and companies that are dedicated to cannabis studies. Israel has a long history of cannabis research and has made significant contributions to the medical cannabis field. And the country is known for its pioneering research on cannabis's therapeutic potentials, including studies on cannabinoids and their applications. That's where Raphael McCollum is actually located. And we have the United States. Of course, federal regulations here have limited cannabis research in the U.S. Individual states like California and Colorado have become hubs for cannabis research and innovation. When we passed the 2018 Farm Bill, it legalized hemp, which has led to extensive research on CBD and hemp-related products. The Netherlands are known for its progressive research to cannabis and its long history of cannabis research. This country has been a leader in cannabis policy, especially in relation to the medical use of cannabis. Uruguay was one of the first countries to fully legalize cannabis for recreational use, and it has established a regulatory framework for research and development in the cannabis industry. Australia has been actively pursuing cannabis research, particularly in the field of medical cannabis. The country has legalized medicinal cannabis use and encourages research and development in this area. Spain has a growing cannabis research community, particularly in areas like cannabinoid pharmacology, cannabis cultivation techniques, and the development of novel cannabis-based products. The Czech Republic has taken steps to regulate and research medical cannabis, making it one of the European countries actively involved in the medical cannabis field. Portugal has decriminalized the possession of small amounts of all drugs, including cannabis, which has enabled a more open and tolerant atmosphere for cannabis research and policy exploration. Germany legalized medical cannabis in 2017 and has since been involved in research and development of medical cannabis products. And Jamaica is known for its association with the cannabis culture and has been exploring medical and scientific applications of the plant while maintaining its cultural significance. And these countries have either legalized cannabis for medicinal or recreational use, or they've established supportive policies and regulations for cannabis research, and they're actively conducting studies on the plant's therapeutic potential, its safety, and applications in various fields, including medicine, agriculture, and industry. So as cannabis research continues to expand, collaboration and knowledge sharing between the countries and research institutions are going to be crucial for advancing the field. And research in the cannabis field is poised to make significant advancements in the next decade as more of these countries are legalizing cannabis for medical and recreational use, and as the scientific understanding of the plant continues to evolve. So it's going to start heading in certain directions, like therapeutic applications, continued exploration of the medical potential of cannabis, including research into the cannabinoids and the terpenes and their effects on the various health conditions like chronic pain management, epilepsy, cancer, and neurodegenerative diseases. Also, research on personalized cannabis-based medicine and tailoring treatments to individuals based on their genetics and their health conditions and responses to the specific cannabinoids and terpenes. Also, increasing the number of well-designed clinical trials to assess the efficacy and the safety of cannabis-based medicines for various conditions. And that's potentially going to lead to more FDA-approved cannabis-driven pharmaceuticals. Also, we need in-depth studies on the effects of cannabis on mental health, including research on potential therapeutic applications of cannabinoids in treating anxiety and depression and other mood disorders. We need research on how cannabis can address the unique health and wellness needs of the aging populations, particularly in managing chronic pain and neurodegenerative diseases and age-related conditions. We need research on how cannabis may affect women's health, including its impact on menstrual symptoms, menopause, and conditions like endometriosis. Advances in understanding the interaction between cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system, which contributes to insights into neurological processes and memory and cognition. We need more research on the interactions between cannabis and the gut microbiome, and exploring how cannabinoids may affect the gut health and influence those conditions like IBS and IBD. And also there's a growing interest in how cannabis can be used in sports medicine, including pain management and recovery and performance enhancement. We need to investigate the effects of cannabis on sleep patterns, including the potential as a treatment for sleep disorders like insomnia. We need more research into safer cannabis consumption methods and education to minimize potential risk and adverse effects, particularly in relation to smoking and overconsumption. We need advancements in the use of hemp for sustainable industrial applications like textiles, bioplastics, construction materials, biofuels. We need ongoing studies on the social and economic and public health impacts of cannabis legislation, including the effects on crime rates and tax revenue and access to health care. We need research on the development of standardized testing methods and quality control procedures to ensure the safety and consistency of cannabis products. We need research into sustainable cultivation practices, including low-impact cultivation methods, efficient resource use, and environmentally friendly packaging. These are just a few of the directions in which the cannabis research is heading, and the field is likely to expand and diversify as our understanding of the plant's property and potential applications continues to grow. Research in the coming decade is expected to contribute significantly to the development of evidence-based policies and regulations and treatments related to cannabis. And this cannabis research is an expanding field with a lot of different areas that warrant further exploration. How cannabinoids interact with certain things, terpenes and their effects, standardized dosage forms to ensure consistent and accurate dosing, researching the effects of cannabis on mental health, and how they interact with each other, exploring the potential use of cannabis-based treatments for neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. We need to know more about the long-term safety and potential side effects of use for heavy and chronic users. Conduct research on the safety and efficacy of the cannabis-based treatments for pediatric patients with conditions like epilepsy and autism. Exploring the relationship between cannabis use and the gut microbiome, studying how cannabis can address the unique health and wellness needs of the aging population, sustainable products, sports medicine, how it affects our sleep, what happens when somebody who's pregnant or breastfeeding, what happens with the fetal development or the child development, how cannabis interacts with other drugs, safety and quality control, testing measures, public policy with cannabis, and developing comprehensive and evidence-based educational programs for healthcare professionals and patients and the general public to really ensure safe and informed cannabis use. These areas just represent a fraction of the potential research directions in the field of cannabis. And as this industry and scientific community continue to evolve, new research questions and opportunities are going to undoubtedly emerge. That's going to lead to this deeper understanding of cannabis and its applications. But the research does face several ethical and legal and funding challenges that hinder the progress and expansion of the field. Cannabis is illegal at the federal level in a lot of countries, including the U.S., and it makes it difficult for researchers to access cannabis for studies. These complex restrictive regulations can create obstacles for obtaining research permits or handling cannabis materials or conducting clinical trials. And even in regions where cannabis is legalized, laws can vary significantly between jurisdictions, and this inconsistency can complicate research efforts and limit the generalizability of the findings. And also, researchers often struggle to obtain a diverse range of cannabis strains and products for their studies, and this can really hinder the investigation into full spectrum of cannabis's potential effects. And the lack of standardized cannabis products makes it challenging to replicate and compare research findings across these studies. So there's a need for consistent quality control and standardized dosing. There's ethical concerns surrounding cannabis research, especially when it involves vulnerable populations like pregnant women or children. Researchers have to navigate complex ethical considerations in designing and conducting these studies. And then cannabis research can still carry that stigma, which may affect the perception and the acceptance of such research. Some researchers and institutions may be hesitant to engage in cannabis research because of the concerns about public opinion. And then securing funding for the research can be difficult, as some funding agencies may be reluctant to support research in a field associated with legal uncertainties and societal controversy. And many financial institutions are hesitant to work with cannabis-related research and businesses because of concerns about potential legal repercussions. And this can create challenges for managing research funds and operations. And the patenting of cannabis-related inventions and intellectual property can be complicated due to the legal constraints, and the disputes over intellectual property rights can hinder research collaboration. And the historical lack of comprehensive clinical research on cannabis has resulted in a dearth of evidence-based clinical guidelines. And that leaves patients and healthcare professionals with limited information about its therapeutic applications. International cannabis research collaborations may be constrained by varying legal frameworks, and that makes it challenging for the researchers to share their resources or their data or their finding across borders. Um, and the process for obtaining approvals for cannabis research can be slow and bureaucratic, potentially delaying the initiation of the studies and hinder the scientific progress. So addressing these challenges is going to require cooperation among governments and researchers, policymakers, and funding agencies to establish clear and consistent legal frameworks, ethical guidelines, and funding opportunities for cannabis research. And as societal attitudes towards cannabis continue to evolve, it's likely that these barriers are going to become more manageable, but ongoing efforts are going to be essential to assure that cannabis research can reach its full potential. So we covered a lot. We discussed how far we've come in research in the cannabis field. We talked about some of the obstacles in the way of doing more research. We discussed advancements in research concerning genetics and cannabinoids, using cannabis for mental health, aging populations, the difference between cannabis and terpenes, the sustainability of research in the field, the environmental impact. We covered the legal and ethical concerns about doing this research and which countries are leading in the field. So it's just important to stay informed about the emerging trends. I want you to know that I am very happy that you completed this lesson. I know it's been quite the journey here. There's a lot of information. I hope this sparked some interest in you in maybe going out and starting your own research study. If you have any questions or concerns, please post them in the chat box under this video, or you can contact me at the email or phone number on the screen, and you can go ahead and advance to the next lesson.